3 lifelong friends, 6 trusty balls, and endless NFL takes. Welcome to 3 Guys, 6 Balls NFL podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome to 3 Guys, 6 Balls episode 5. Today, we're going to be doing some more NFL draft talk. We're going to be talking about some of the players in the draft who are mid to late round players. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go around. We've picked a few players that we want to talk about, and we're just going to talk about these players, some of their strengths and weaknesses, and talk about where they may be drafted, teams they may go to, some players that they might compare to in the NFL, and we'll do a deep dive into some of these guys. So before we get started, though, last time I did a trivia question about the NFL draft. I got another one for you guys today, and this one is a little bit easier, and I'm not going to give you any hints this time.
Bet. Still going to get it wrong.
All right, so who was the last number 1 overall pick to win Rookie of the Year?
It wasn't Luck, was it?
Was it before or after Luck?
After.
Okay, so more recent than
And
that.
there's been multiple players after him.
I thought you said this was easier.
Is it offensive?
Offensive, yeah. I guess that counts as a hint.
Well, there's a defensive rookie of the year.
Drafted.
So it's a quarterback. That much I can guarantee.
It is a quarterback.
It's not Lawrence, is it?
No, it's not Trevor.
Good guess. I have no idea. Truly, I have no idea.
It was within the last 6 years. You're just going to go look it up now?
I'm just looking up number 1 overall picks.
Yeah, that's all I need to just see who I'm supposed to think about.
This is a much easier question than guessing a quarterback from 1971.
It's not Kyler.
It is Kyler.
Darn it, I just got here.
It's Kyler Murray.
I didn't know it. I just guessed names until I got it.
Joe Burrow didn't win it? Who won the
He
Titans?
did not. Justin Herbert.
Yeah, well, that checks out, actually.
Yeah. I was surprised by that, too.
And it wasn't Caleb Williams last year who got sacked 68 times? Wasn't him?
No, it was Jaden Daniels.
Oh, weird. That checks out, too.
Here's a good trivia question for you. Who was the last number 2 overall pick to win Rookie of the Year?
If I didn't know number 1...
I literally just said his name. I literally just said
it's
Jaden Daniels.
If I didn't know number 1 overall picks the last 6 years, you want me to know number 2 overall picks?
Last number 13 overall in the second round.
Yeah.
13 in the second round. Who's the last one?
I couldn't even tell you who won MVP of the NFL. Oh, was it Lamar? No, Josh Allen. Should have been Lamar, was Josh Allen.
Was it Lamar? Oh.
Wait a minute.
I watched the last season. It sounded like it should have been Lamar. Oh, yeah. That's right.
All right. Well, clearly they don't know their trivia, so we'll try again next time.
And I will fail again next time.
All right, let's get into some of these prospects. Again, we're doing mid to late round picks in the upcoming NFL draft. So we're going to get through as many guys as we can today with the time that we have. Let's go ahead and start with Will. Take us through your first guy.
All right. I'm actually going to pick my favorite prospect of the 3 I've got here first. I'm going to start with Quinn Ewers. On a quarterback prospect rank, I've seen him as high as 4. I've seen him as low as 7, 8. Listen, this guy, he is a player who plays football. That is a good start.
Deep insight.
Number 1 overall pick right there.
Not even a little bit. If he's picked in the top 4 rounds, somebody is stretching for Quinn Ewers. He is okay at best. A lot of people talk about the best of the rest. Today, I really, truly feel like we're talking about the okay of the rest. He didn't have a bad season. He had 3,400 passing yards, 31 touchdowns. He did throw for 12 interceptions, got sacked 31 times last year, all while playing as the quarterback that his team didn't want to play. And that is some immense pressure. The entire season, everybody was like, oh, we want Arch Manning. And even now, before this draft even happens, they're talking about which team is going to tank the draft this year so they can tank next season to get Arch Manning. To play as a starting quarterback on the Texas Longhorns, first year in the SEC, you have extremely high prospects as a team in the entire season as your third year as a player there, and I do believe third-year starter, if not second-year starter, the entire season to be, well, we'd rather see this other guy. Oh, we'd actually like this other guy. The entire season, as you're just winning game after game after game, has got to be demoralizing. But yet he still showed up. He still participated. He still won. I mean, they made the playoff last year.
They won a playoff game.
They won a playoff game. Thank you. Appreciate that. He's 6'2", 214 pounds, so he's, I guess you could call it on the shorter side of things for a quarterback for an NFL prospect. I mean, we all watched him play. He can throw the ball pretty good when his first receiver is open. He can throw the ball when the play design is executed perfectly. He can throw the ball well. What he doesn't do well is second decisions. He doesn't do collapsing pocket and, my first guy's not open, now I have to look at my second read. I have to look at the third read. He doesn't do the in the split second decision making well. He had 12 interceptions, and a lot of them were because he was staring receivers down. Now, granted, some of them are tip balls, drop passes from receivers, but when you're staring your number one option down and you're unwilling to move off of them, you're not trying to lead the defense off. All you're doing is just, hey, I'm going here. I'm going to stare at that guy. And it happened pre-snap, too. It wasn't just the snap happens, going to stare my guy down. Pre-snap, he's staring him down, and so defenses were able to adjust to it. But even with all that, they were still able to consistently win. He can do the right thing. He doesn't move well in the pocket. When the pocket breaks down, he doesn't make good decisions well. That being said, all this stuff can be trained out. It is the NFL. They've got the best coaches in the world. All of these things can be trained out. If they can take Tim Tebow and retrain his entire throwing position as a starting NFL quarterback, then I truly believe anything can be trained out in the NFL. I think he's going to be okay in the NFL. If he is expected to start year one, I mean, you're just looking to draft another quarterback early in the next season. Perpetual backup. I feel like this is another one of these guys that's going to go to a mid-level team. I could see the Bills taking him in the late round. Definitely not round 5, but if he's there in round 6 or 7, the Bills as a backup, he cannot run, so you're not going to expect the same game as Josh Allen. I could also see a Pete Carroll type who they just want, like the Raiders late in the draft, taking him as just hand the ball off. All we need you to do is what J.J. McCarthy did the entire time at Michigan. Just hand the ball off. He's going to be okay. He's going to make a career backup, which, as everybody says, is the position to be in. You're going to make, by the end of your career, you're going to be $100 millionaire if you play your cards right and have no risk to your body. I don't have any good comps for him. I think Josh McCown, Luke McCown, I think they're good comps. They do okay, but they're just not. They can fill in when you need, but they're not going to be the guy.
Some of the comps that I saw for him was Sam Howell and Derek Carr Light. Derek Carr Light.
Yeah.
Those are some of the comps I saw.
I saw that one.
For Quinn Ewers.
I think he was the only one with light at the end of it. It's like, geez, you couldn't have just found a different guy that already was a Derek Carr Light and just call it him.
Yeah, and if you're going Derek Carr, but like the less good version of Derek Carr, what kind of quarterback are you really getting here?
Yeah, you're getting the less good version of a already not good quarterback.
Right.
Just to go to one thing that you said, Will, I was listening to ESPN's First Draft podcast with Mel Kiper, and they were talking about the Joe Milton trade to Dallas. And so what they were talking about is in every single draft, you should take a quarterback in one of the late rounds. In every single draft, just regardless of if your team has a starting quarterback or not. And the reason why is because if you can get a guy, you can develop him a little bit, you can put him into the preseason game, show off some of his skills. Maybe he starts in a couple games during the season, maybe he doesn't. But when you get a chance to show him off, if he does well, you have the chance to get some capital back. That's exactly what happened with Joe Milton. Is the Patriots drafted him in the later round. They showed him off a little bit. And then Dallas came and said, hey, we're interested. And they got some capital. So even if you don't hit on the guy, it's worth a shot taking a quarterback in the later rounds.
But you have to actually trade him, not let him sign to another team like Dallas does.
Yes, you do have to do that, yes. Instead of trading for Trey Lance and then just letting him go.
Good golly.
You got anything else to say about Quinn Ewers, Will?
I mean, the guy, he has to be a diamond in the rough because of the amount of pressure that's just been put on him the entire season. Coming back from the injury 2 seasons ago to play in front of Arch Manning, this dude has got to be well refined. And so I don't think I think he's going to be used to the pressure. I think that's going to be a big part.
Yeah, just one other thing on him is you mentioned his lack of rushing ability. Some stats for him with his lack of escapability is in 2 out of his 3 seasons, he had negative rushing yards. So 2 out of the last 3 seasons, he had negative rushing yards. That's just something to note because I think teams are looking for guys like, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, who can just do, when they need to, they can get out of the pocket, even if they don't have a ton of rushing yards. And I think that's kind of one of the knocks on Shedeur Sanders too, is that he's not very good at escaping the pocket. I think he actually had negative rushing yards as well.
Yes.
So that's kind of one of his biggest knocks there, is just his lack of escapability. So anyway, let's get on to our next prospect here. Avery, give us your first guy.
I like Elic Ayomanor. I think this guy is a stud. To me, he reminds me a little bit of Andre Johnson.
Ooh,
but
I like
that's not necessarily based on, physicals or anything, but that's just the way I've seen him play. This guy he doesn't do a whole lot of talking. He's not in the limelight, but every time I've seen this guy play, and then looking up highlights of him, realizing that, it's been nearly I wouldn't say every game, but there's a lot of other games where I see him just completely dominate. The notable one, of course, was against Colorado, where he just torched Travis Hunter. Embarrassed him. Completely embarrassed him to the point where it almost looked like punching down. And I think this guy's got an immense upside. I remember watching him the previous year, even before this last season, and thinking the same thing. So I've been really excited to kind of see where he goes. I didn't think he had a lot of help or support. I think he would have been better suited on a better team. I think he could have got more, I don't know, whether it's coaching or just refinement on one of those other teams, because I think that's kind of his biggest weakness, is just not being as polished. I think there's a lot of route running issues. It's things that you can get by with in college, but in the pros, I think it's just going to be tougher. But I think those are things that are easily coachable. So I think his best situation is at a team that has good receiver development. But this guy is just unreal as far as just the intangibles, or I wouldn't even say the intangibles, just the things that just he naturally does. One of the things is the way he extends his arms to catch. It's one of those things where I remember when we were younger playing football in the basketball gym, throwing it and stuff, and everyone would get on each other, because this is around the time that some of us are starting to play organized football and we're being coached, and so we're relaying that onto them and onto each other and stuff. I remember one time, we're 12 or 13, and I'd be running a cross route and they'd throw it to me, and I'd keep jumping and catching it when I don't have to. I could just stay in stride.
The Avery jump catch.
Avery jump catch.
Avery jump catch.
But for me, it was more about just focusing on getting the ball. And if I wasn't focused on running, I'm I'll make sure I get this. But the other thing was, Austin would talk to me about just don't body catch. You don't want the first contact to be on your chest and then have to worry about it maybe bouncing off. So one of the things is if you're proactive and you go out for it, you're kind of in control rather than hoping that you can kind of cup it. And that's one of the things that Ayomanor does, is just extends to grab it. And that's one of the things, and whether or not someone can disagree with me on this in the comments, I'm sure they will. I see that as a sign of just more confidence. If you wait for the ball to come to you, there's plenty of posters that there's been of, a receiver like this, and then the DB catching it, intercepting it. And I see it as one of those things where it's who wants that ball more? Are you going to wait for it to come to you, or are you going to go up and grab it? And I think players, especially receivers, that go up and grab it with two hands, just whether they want it more, whether they're a little more confident about it. I just like him. I think this guy's a problem waiting to happen.
A guy who came to mind when you were talking about him using his hands and his size was AJ Brown. I don't know why. That's just a guy who came to mind while you're talking about him. So maybe we go. Maybe we had Derek Carr light. Maybe we go AJ Brown light.
Jeez.
For now, we'll see. He might be AJ Brown plus AJ Brown max.
There we go.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, but just to go back to what you said, Avery, about him just not being in the right system, I also agree with you. I don't think that Stanford played to his strengths at all. He didn't have very much support at all. I looked up their stats because I was interested to see, you mentioned before, Avery, you think he should be ranked way higher, and I agree with you. And just looking at his stats, I can see why he's not ranked that high. But some of the stats here is their leading passer in 2024 had 1,700 yards.
Jeez.
He threw 10 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That same quarterback who threw for 1,700 yards had 669 rushing yards on 148 carries, which led their team by 360 rushing yards. He had 72 more carries than the next leading rusher on that team. So just from that alone, you can see they did not play to his strengths whatsoever. I think, like you said, Avery, if he goes to a bigger program, like if he goes to Colorado and he's playing with Shador, who's throwing almost 500 passes instead of this guy who is throwing for 1,700 yards in an entire season, Ayomanor probably has at least 1,300 yards, at least 10 touchdowns, at least. So he already had, out of those 1,700 yards, Ayomanor had at least half of those. Like he almost had like half of those passing yards, and he had over half of the receiving touchdowns from that quarterback. So you can see there's a lot of potential there. He just played in a system that just didn't play to his strengths whatsoever. So I really like him too. What round do you see him being drafted in, Avery?
Definitely second round. I would think, I don't know what team specifically. I would think, probably late second round. If he was a quarterback, probably upper second round. I just think I'm hopeful for it because he's not the top receiver. I'm hoping that a team that gets him will see the kind of rough edges on him and have a plan to kind of polish that up, make sure he's, not getting any bad, any bad habits. But yeah, I'm thinking late second round. I guess we'll be able to check. We got our fact checkers on the show.
I'll be the fact checker.
Cool.
I was thinking third round, maybe second, just depending on how the board falls, because it could go a lot of different ways. But I think just as we've been talking, a couple teams came to mind. I know one of the teams is the Eagles because I mentioned A.J. Brown. But, I mean, could you imagine if they had A.J. Brown on one side and then they had this guy on the other side in the red zone?
At 6'2", and then I don't know what A.J. Brown is.
He's big.
And Saquon Barkley. I mean, who do you play against? How do you stop that?
Yeah. Especially if you can get him on a team where they've already got some established receivers like that, and you're not putting all that pressure on him. He can just come out and just wow the fans, this rookie, coming out of nowhere. I think he'd be primed for that. Also, real quick, it would be really funny. I mean, I don't know how much extra work it would be. You might need to use some AI little apps. But if any time we made a little prediction on here, it kept record of it. So if I'm like, I think this guy's going to be good. Next year, hey, Avery, remember that time you said that Ayomanor was going to be a great player, and then turns out he was caught, I don't know, beating a family member up and went to prison, and it's that didn't age well.
Like half of the NFL players do?
Yeah. Dude, Ray Rice, he's gonna kill it. He's going to kill it. So is Hernandez. I guess Ray Rice didn't kill anyone.
No, he just punched someone in the face. He just punched a woman in the face.
Yeah, he didn't commit. That's the problem. There's no follow through. He followed through, just not.
Oh no!
That's terrible.
I miss Ray. I remember being so bummed. I really liked Ray Rice then, and I was like, now I can't like Ray Rice.
Ray Rice, fantasy beast.
Just one other team I want to mention that just came to mind. I feel like the Chiefs would be a good team for him, for Ayomanor.
Stop it.
Honestly, I hate it, but yeah.
I hate it. Yes. And
I hate it.
With a lot of my guys, I've got the Chiefs as good teams just because they're so good at developing players. I mean, I absolutely hated that I thought of the Chiefs for my guys, but that would be really good for him, I think.
That would be a good spot. That would, yeah. Jeez. I hate it. All right.
So since we're talking about a good player for the Chiefs, I'm going to go into my next guy who I also think he would be a good player for the Chiefs. And it's tight end Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. I think I might actually be in love with him. He had 117 catches for 1,555 yards.
That's almost as good as that quarterback.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And he had 10 touchdowns. He led the FBS in receptions and receiving yards, which are both single-season FBS records for a tight end. He won the MAC Player of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year, which he is the first tight end in FBS history to win Conference Player of the Year. His biggest strength is his hands. He's got automatic hands. If you throw him the ball, he's going to catch the ball. That's made clear by his 117 catches and his over 1,500 receiving yards. So he had 5 games with 10 or more catches and 8 games with 100 or more receiving yards. And then after the catch, this is one of his biggest strengths as well, is he is dynamic after the catch. He had 873 yards after the catch, which is 56% of his total yards after the catch. He had 34 broken tackles. So basically after the catch, he's basically just like Derrick Henry. He's like a big running back, just bouncing off guys. And then what I really love about him too is he's got a lot of versatility. He actually had 33 carries for 159 yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 college seasons. So he didn't do it a lot, but he did have times where he was taking carries in the backfield. And then he also logged snaps as a receiver in different positions as well. He lined up as the inline tight end 43.6% of the time, in the slot 28.6% of the time, and out wide 27.8% of the time. So he's got a lot of versatility. You can line him up as a tight end. You can line him up as a running back. You can line him up as a receiver. You can put this guy pretty much wherever you want, and he's going to be effective as a receiving tight end. Some of the knocks on him is he played at Bowling Green, so obviously there's going to be that knock where you see the level of competition that he's playing against. But he did have 2 games on his schedule this season where he played Penn State and Texas A&M, who were both ranked. And against Penn State, he had 11 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. And then against Texas A&M, he had 8 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. So he didn't do it every single week. He didn't play against the top competition in college football every week. But he had 2 games where he showcased that it doesn't matter what level of competition he's going against. He is a receiver who is going to be effective. Some of his other weaknesses is he's not the strongest guy, which I think is going to make a difference in the NFL, because he did have 34 broken tackles, but going against guys in the NFL who are bigger, faster, stronger than the guys that are on his schedule at Bowling Green, I don't think he's going to be able to do that as much. So he does need to get stronger. And specifically when it comes to being a blocker, he just needs to be better at blocking. His strength kind of works against him in that situation. So really, really what I think this guy's going to be is I think he's the best receiving tight end in the whole draft. I do. If you have 117 catches for over 1,500 yards, you've got a little something. So the reason I think he's a good fit with the Chiefs is because you have Travis Kelce, who is, you could say, arguably the best tight end in NFL history. Arguably. He's getting close to retiring. He was considering it this season. Who knows how long he has left. But if you put him in your offense, you let him learn behind Travis Kelce while being a part of your offense, because he's a great pass catcher. And I think Patrick Mahomes loves his security blankets. He loves to have Travis Kelce. So I think he would love to have Harold Fannin Jr. So you put him on the Chiefs, you let him learn from Travis Kelce. And then when Travis Kelce retires, you let him take over. I think this guy has a chance to be, I'm not saying he is going to be, but I think he has a chance to be the best tight end in this whole draft class.
Shoot.
My only problem with this guy is he's barely a tight end. He's 6'3".
He's so small.
Right?
He's a small boy.
That's as tall as I am. I mean, these tight ends nowadays are 6'5", 6'6", and it's only a couple inches short. But when you're expecting a tall man to run on the field, jump up and catch the ball at 6'3", 240, it'd almost be better to drop 20 pounds rather than gain 20 pounds. Drop 20 pounds and just play outside, play receiver.
Which again, he can do. He played 27.8% of his snaps out wide.
Right. If I were looking at him as an NFL scout, that's where I'm looking. I'm hoping he drops into mid to late rounds, and then I get to draft him as a receiver, not as a tight end. Because you can't coach height, you can't train height. But for a receiver, 6'3" is quite tall.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. His size isn't what teams look for typically in a tight end, but you can't deny the production. You just can't. I mean, the leading receiver in all of college football, you can't deny the production. So just an example to kind of counter what you said, Will. I know he's not one of the best tight ends in the NFL, but he is productive. For the Baltimore Ravens is Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is not a big tight end. He's not typically what teams look for in a tight end, but he's a guy who's come in, he's played his backup role very well, and he's had a lot of big moments where he helps out the Ravens. And he's kind of my I think Harold Fannin Jr. is a rich man's Isaiah Likely is what I put down, because they both played at small schools in college. They both were great receivers. They both have similar height and weight. And I think that they're going to start out playing very similar role, but I think Harold Fannin is going to step into a starting role eventually. And I think, again, I'm not saying he's going to be the best tight end, but I think he has a chance to be the best tight end.
I mean, even Isaiah Likely is 2 inches taller than this guy. Well, inch and a half taller than this guy. Which sure may not be a lot, but it's not nothing. I like him.
I'm more of a look at the production kind of guy versus a look at your measurables kind of guy. It's kind of like, Avery, what you were saying last time with Will Campbell. It's like, yeah, he has short arms, but Will Campbell came out and said, this isn't a direct quote, but he came out and said that, nobody cared about my short arms until they were measured.
Yep.
Nobody said anything until my arms were measured, and then they cared.
True. Good point.
So, yeah, we'll see. I think he's going to go in the 3rd round. I think he has a chance to go in the 2nd round, kind of similar to Ayomanor. It just kind of depends on how the board falls. There's a lot of good tight ends in this class, so that could potentially push him down because teams might wait until a little bit later to try and grab a tight end because there's so many good ones. But, yeah, I think that sweet spot is early 3rd, maybe late 2nd, just depending on how the board falls. Let's go back over to Will. Give us your second prospect.
Okay, so my second prospect, we talked a lot about offense, and I'm going to keep going here. Xavier Restrepo, receiver, Miami. I mean, on paper, this guy has it all. He set records at Miami. Last season, he had 16 interceptions, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was the safety valve for Cam Ward. Every time Cam Ward needed a play, it was going to Restrepo. Every time it was 4th, and it didn't matter how long, it was going to Restrepo. The amount of catches I saw after Restrepo had fallen down and Cam Ward just flung the ball to him as fast as he could, and he's catching it on his back, he would do it every time. He had rock solid is not a great term for hands, but his hands were, amazing. He would catch the ball every single time. And if you can get it in his short arm span, he's going to catch the ball. Let's talk about some uncoachables, the measurables, as they say. He's only 5'10". Bottom 13% of all prospects for receivers this year. His hands, bottom 37%. His individual arm, bottom 9%. His arm span, bottom 4%. He ran in the 40-yard dash.
5:20.
Almost a 4.83 unofficial 40-yard dash. He hit almost a 4.9. Now, granted, I could not get even close. There is no way I could get even close. But for somebody who technically measures at 5'9.88", you weigh 200 pounds, you have got to be fast. You have got to be fast.
He blamed it on a tight hamstring.
Okay, let me tell you, I watched minutes of this guy's tape. I know what I say. Minutes of it. He is not fast. I don't know what his yak is, yards after the catch. I don't know what that is, but it's got to be like 12. This guy catches the ball. Honestly, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola. You catch the ball, you fall down. You catch the ball, you fall down.
Wait.
Cooper Kupp does that a lot. Catch the ball, you fall down.
Go back to Julian Edelman. That's my comp for him. That's my comp for Restrepo.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. There's nothing wrong with that.
You're right. I think Restrepo is going to be great in the NFL. I know I just spent, a minute and a half, 2 minutes ripping this guy apart. I think he's going to be great. He's going to be a great 2nd or 3rd option on a team that is always going to be open because he's so deceivingly slow. The secondary is going to stay 10 yards away from him because they're like, I can catch up to this guy. And then they're going to get Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, who can throw the ball at 900 miles an hour at him, and he's just going to catch it every single time. And he'll get 10. He averaged 16 yards per catch at Miami last season. 16 yards per catch. And I'm telling you, with a 5-second 40 time, they were just leaving him open, and I'm assuming it's because they thought they had the closing speed to get there. But Cam Ward has an absolute rifle and would just whiz the ball in there as hard as he could, and Restrepo just caught the ball every single time. So deceivingly slow. And honestly, it is a true deceivingly slow. The only time in watching film, the only time I ever saw him pull away from anybody, even linebackers, was when he had another blocker. Somebody was stopping the defense's progress so he could get further down the field. That is the only time he ever had any amount of actual yards after a catch. But if you don't need that, I mean, Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett, both great examples. They catch the ball, they go out of bounds, they fall down, they get their catch yards, and that's it. I don't need to put myself at risk. I don't need to make myself get injured. I actually think both of those guys are pretty good comps for him. He's going to be a slot receiver. He's going to get in the middle of the field. He's going to catch the ball 10, 12 yards at a time and just fall down because you're in the middle of the field. And so if you don't need him, if you can wait, if you can have a 5-step drop for a 12-yard hook, he is your guy. He can get to 12 yards down the field in 4 seconds, and it will be fine. I like this guy a lot, honestly, because he catches the ball so much. If you can get it inside his baby arms, he's going to catch it every time. I think he's going to be an early second-round guy. There's a lot of receivers this year. There's a lot of potential receivers this year. But I don't know how many of them are going to be viewed in the same light, especially if it comes to, well, we're assuming the Titans are going to take Cam Ward at number 1. If Cam Ward gets to say, hey, I want my guy with me, and they need the Titans definitely need extra offensive pieces, I would not be surprised to see Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase scenario where, hey, this is my guy from school. I want him with me here too. I could see that definitely happening. I think he's going to be definitely top 5 receivers off the board, mid to late second. I like this guy a lot. There's just a lot of uncoachables that you have to overcome. But as we already talked about, if you can get a system that works for him and with him, he's not going to be your star receiver on the edge. I mean, that tight end that you were just talking about, Fannin Jr., ran a faster 40 than Xavier Restrepo.
I think this is another good example, though, of looking at production over what your test scores say.
Sure.
Just a fun fact, Restrepo is the only Miami receiver ever to have back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. So there's a lot of production there. I think one thing where we disagree, Will, is his draft position. I kind of saw him as a third-round receiver, but I think after he ran that 4.8 40 at his pro day, I think that pushes him down into the 4th. I do. I just don't see somebody drafting a player who runs a 4.8 that high. But again, just to go back to looking at production, there's a couple players who they didn't run quite that bad. 4.8 is like historically bad for a receiver, but you look at guys like Cooper Kupp, Larry Fitzgerald, who ran a 4.6. I think Richard Sherman, I mean, he's not a wide receiver, he's a corner, but I think Richard Sherman ran like a 4.6. So just because you run a slow 40, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be productive.
That's true. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at. He does not measure well, but I really like this guy. I think if you need a sure-handed receiver that's going to be open, he was always open. I don't know how, especially with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. This dude was always open. And even in tight contested throws, he was catching the ball almost every time. He would win out over corners and safeties, all the defensive backs. He would win out every single time. And even though he's not the fastest, you still cannot match him up with a linebacker. You have to use a defensive back, and it has to be somebody who's skilled at man-to-man coverage. Because if you get him in the zone, he's incredibly skilled at finding the hole in the zone, and he's just going to sit there and wait. He's very patient with that. He does not have to just be constantly in the jitters and on the move. He's going to be available and ready to catch the ball, and he's constantly looking for it. Especially because he was Cam Ward's guy. He was constantly looking for the ball every time in Miami, and I don't think anything's going to change when it comes to the NFL. He will be a great number 2 or number 3 option. Well, probably honestly number 3 or number 4 option on an NFL team next year.
Let's just get him on the Patriots, and then we'll recreate Tom Brady and Julian Edelman with Drake May and Xavier Restrepo.
Yeah, definitely equal to equal.
All right. Well, let's go back over to Avery with Avery's second prospect. Who do you have?
Second prospect. I'm going to touch a little bit on what Joel said with not everything is about the measurables, and what Will said about Tyler Lockett, because I feel like this player is very much so like Tyler Lockett, and that is Tez Johnson out of Oregon.
I like that comp, actually. That's a good comp right off the bat there.
Yeah. This boy's small. Like, I look like a tight end compared to this guy. Yeah. Yeah, he's a tiny boy. However, height horizontal height is something that can be trained. You can get some fat and some meat on them bones, and so I'm not too worried about that. That metabolism can only, run hot for so long. But no, this guy, it's one of those things where kind of like with Restrepo's 40 time, which I think there has to be something. Either he didn't try or he was hurt or something, because you can't be a receiver. You can't be a great receiver, which he already is, with that 40 time. Like, if that's actually how fast you run, like, you can't. And so, like,
he just didn't want to go to the Browns.
That's honestly,
he just didn't want to be drafted by the Browns.
Yeah. But I see it kind of the same deal with, like, Will Campbell's short arms or this guy blocking or whatever. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, up until we brought it up, this wasn't an issue. And I think Tez Johnson, his whole career, he played at Troy before Oregon, played with Bo Nix, his brother's with Bo Nix. But this is one of the things where he's always been small. And so he's always had to find a way, basically, to get his touches, get his kicks. And so I think this is one of the things, it'll be definitely a new challenge in the NFL. But I've watched every game he's played, actually. Wild thing to say. This guy's crafty. Anytime he touches it, the crowd is ready for it. Honestly, it looked a little bit like, what's that Bama freshman? Is that Ryan Williams? Who's that freshman, that 17-year-old that played at Alabama?
Williams is his last name, yeah.
I think it's Ryan Williams. Anyway, he looks like him just because this kid's 17, and that's kind of the body that Tez Johnson has right now. But just very crafty, just very elusive with the ball. And I think that's one of the things. I was playing Road to Glory, college football 2025, and it's one of those things where you got to kind of choose. Do you want to be elusive or do you want to be powerful? Do you want to run someone over or avoid them altogether? And I think Tez Johnson has put all his points behind elusiveness. It's like, look, if as soon as someone grabs you, it's over. But if you can avoid that grab, like, you're doing pretty well. And Tez Johnson went up against some of the best DBs. He was playing in the Big Ten, not the SEC, but it is still the Big Ten. It's the second best conference. And he got pushed to the limits. But even then, I still feel like he finds a way around it. I'm not saying he's the best receiver in the class. I don't even think he's top 5. I think he's top 10. And I think it really just kind of comes down to what situation he's in. I think he's more of a journeyman player. That's what he's going to be in the NFL, trying to find the right situation. But like I said, Tyler Lockett, he carved out his position, and he even did that kind of with a little bit of an asterisk. I don't know if he just got too many head injuries where he's like, I'm never going to get tackled ever again. He's like, I will go to the ground before that happens. And it's one of those things where if you hear about that and don't see what that looks like, you'd be like, why don't you just retire? Like, that's never going to work. And he makes it work. I don't think Tez Johnson is going to necessarily shy away from that, but he is small, and he should probably. If I was 170 pounds, 5'9", yeah, I'd probably be a little scared to get hit by an NFL linebacker. But anyways, I think he'll go probably 4th, maybe 5th round. But I think he's one of those players. I think there's a lot of receivers and even some of the tight ends, and honestly, probably running backs more than anything, where some of these later round picks, I think in a couple years we're gonna look back at them and be like, wow, like that guy went that low. And then they'll have to rewind to like either this podcast or somewhere else showing like this is a deep class. Like, you could pick a player, you could pick a running back or receiver in round 1 or round 5, and either one of them could have an amazing career somehow. But I think Tez Johnson is one of those guys. I think he's very special.
Yeah, just to go back to the negative on him real quick is his size. That's his biggest weakness. I've seen a lot of comps with Tank Dell for the Houston Texans because he's a smaller guy. And just the biggest thing that concerns me there is just the injuries, because you've seen the injuries that Tank Dell has had just early in his career already. So I think there's a possibility for the same outcome with Tez. But to go to back to the positive, he had 4 straight seasons in college with over 700 receiving yards. They weren't all at Oregon. He played at Troy before that, but 4 straight seasons with 700 receiving yards or more, there's something to be said for that. So just another example, like you said, Avery, of looking at production versus the measurables.
Yep. And that's the thing. He got it done. There's been players where you see them have some nice shining moments. Actually, this isn't a football example, but Jeremy Lin is an example of one of those guys where he could have a big night.
Linsanity.
And if we're being honest, if even during Linsanity, if we're being honest, and I think Carmelo Anthony pointed it out too. I know this is totally off topic. it's one of those things where we're only pointing it out because he's Asian. It's like because we already see that there's an inherent disadvantage, it is impressive that he's doing this. It's like, yeah, other guys that same night put up 25 points, so because it's not about that. It's about like what he's doing despite what he's got to work with. And Tez Johnson, like Jeremy Lin, it's like there was a few moments where he came in clutch. But that doesn't mean the fans every night want Jeremy Lin to be the one to put the team on their back. And I think it's one of those things where it's like we can't rest this team on Jeremy Lin's shoulders. Like that's a slippery slope. But Tez Johnson was one of those guys, despite his size, every game the fans are clamoring for him to get the ball. Either like him or or RB1. Like they want him. It's not like, oh, I don't know. Like, hey, when it comes to the big moment, I don't know if you're tall enough. If you're heavy enough, if you're strong enough. It's like, no, this guy came through. And so it's in the biggest moments, especially playing with Bo. And I think Bo is I can't say enough things about Bo. I love Bo Nix. I think he's got the right mindset and everything. And I think the fact that Tez Johnson's his brother's with him, I feel like that wide receiver knowledge that he can give him will only help Tez.
Yeah, I like that. Will, did you have something?
Yeah, I do. Real quick, before we move away from him, I think he'll have a really good spot, especially with the new NFL kickoff stuff they're doing, where, you're moving it out to like 35 or whatever.
35, yeah.
Yeah, 35-yard line. Teams are going to be incentivized to kick the ball to the returners. And when you get small guys like this who can literally hide behind the other players, and Tez, like you said, I watched every single game he played in. Attended games that he played in. Well,
even more than me. Look at that. What I said I thought was obsessive, and he's topped it already.
This is just the last 2 years. Obviously, I didn't know him at Troy. I didn't watch him at Troy. But over the last 2 years, I've watched every single game he's played in. Having somebody who's elusive like that with as good a field vision as he has, and watching him literally cut across the field the entire way. Now, maybe a 20-yard touchdown, but he ran 100 yards because he cut back and forth across the field, but because he has that elusiveness. And with the new NFL kickoff rules that they're coming in with, they're going to want players like that who have. Now, I've seen Tez play live. He is faster than his 40 time. Like you said, I don't know what happened, and I'm sure the same thing can be said. Gosh, who was I just talking about?
Restrepo.
Yeah, I'm sure the same thing can be said for Restrepo. He is faster than his 40 time, I'm sure. Film doesn't show it, but that's fine. Tez's film shows that he's faster than that. And so even if he sits for a few years, and I say quote-unquote sits, as a return specialist for kick return, punt return, I don't know if punt return's the right move, but kick return, he's got that small frame he can hide behind, and he has incredible vision, incredible elusiveness to get around and get through. I think he's got a real niche in the NFL, honestly.
I agree. So with my second guy, I'm going to go the opposite of what the trend we've had here. So instead of looking at production versus the measurables and intangibles, I'm going to go with measurables over production. So this is cornerback from Iowa State, Darien Porter. So his measurables jump off the page. He's 6'3". He's 195 pounds. He ran a 4.3 in the 40, which was he was the second fastest corner at the combine. Now, when we're talking about production here, he did have production in the season that he started at corner, but he was a sixth-year senior, and he only started for 1 year in college. So he started off his career as a wide receiver, and then in 2022, he switched to corner, but he didn't start until this last season. I guess I'll start with the negative. So lack of experience is probably the biggest knock on this guy, because NFL receivers are going to try and take advantage of that. And quarterbacks are going to try and take advantage of that. So, just with his lack of experience, he did have some production, which I'll get into with the positives in his first season as a starter. But overall, he just doesn't have the experience that's necessary for a starting corner in the NFL. Not saying that he can't get it, but he just doesn't have it right now. So it may take him a little bit of time to get there. Another knock on him is his age. He's already 24. So before the end of this next NFL season, he's going to be 25. Not to say that doesn't mean he can't be successful, but that's just, that's going to knock him down a little bit, I think, because teams don't want a guy who's already going to be 25 as a rookie. And then another weakness here for him is because he's long and he's tall, he's not big because of that. He does have a lot of length. He's He's just not super strong. He's not super powerful. So he needs to get better in run support. He needs to get better at tackling. And he needs to get stronger overall. Now, with the positives, I think the floor for Darien Porter in the NFL is a special teams ace. Throughout his career in college, he had 5 blocked kicks. He was actually ranked as the second most athletic corner at the combine. So with his athleticism and his length, his speed, he puts that to good use on special teams, which if you're trying to make an NFL team, that's where you do it. You do it on special teams. So I know we talked about the Chiefs being a good fit for some other guys. He's a good fit for the Chiefs because I can just see the Chiefs being in a game like they were last season against the Broncos where they are supposed to lose. They're supposed to lose because the other team is going to kick a field goal. And they put Darien Porter in on special teams, and he just comes and blocks the kick, and just somehow the Chiefs win. He's the perfect fit for the Chiefs just for that reason alone.
How much do you really hate the Chiefs?
It's mostly just Mahomes.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hate him when they were losing.
Fair enough, I guess.
Okay, so to get back to more strength with this guy, going back to production. So when quarterbacks targeted him in his lone season as a starter, their quarterback rating was 18.2, which is extremely bad. So overall, his stats don't jump off the page, but he didn't have a lot of tackles. He did have 3 interceptions, but his overall stats don't jump off the page. But that's because teams typically stayed away from him. But when you're throwing at a 6'3", almost 200-pound corner who can run a 4.3, you might get into some trouble if you're throwing at that guy consistently. So he was very good in coverage in his lone season as a starter. He has really good ball tracking skills, which comes from when he started his career as a wide receiver. Kind of a little bit of the Trevon Diggs path in there where he started as a receiver, moved to corner, and you can see that paid off. That's paid off for him so far in the NFL. His comp would be Tariq Woolen, who plays for the Seahawks. He's very similar in size. He's very similar in speed, very similar in athleticism. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Seahawks in 2022. And so I think another good team would be the Raiders because of Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll drafted Tariq Woolen, so I think he would be interested in Darien Porter because he's similar to Woolen, who's had a pretty good career for a 5th rounder so far. And then another team would be the Commanders because of Dan Quinn, who is also connected to Pete Carroll and to the Seahawks. He likes to look for tall, just fast, big corners. I think the Chiefs, Commanders, and Raiders would be some really good teams. I see him going in the 3rd with a possibility of the 2nd. I think it's most likely going to be the 3rd round, though, just because of his age and his lack of experience. But I do think that he has a really good chance to be a productive player in the NFL.
Like it.
I have nothing to say about this guy.
It reminds me of you're talking about the Chiefs, just he'll just get it done. There was this Mexican soccer player. I'm touching on all the sports today.
Good way to start.
Inspire confidence. I like it.
Good start.
It went by Chicharito. I think it was Javier Hernandez or something. And I remember he was like the face of Mexican soccer when I was there. And I remember asking people about him, like, oh, is he really good? And they're like, I mean, and it was weird because the way they said it, it translated to, he puts the ball in the net. I'm like, so he's good, right? He's like, I mean, it goes in the net. And it's one of those things I was trying to figure out, what do you mean? And it turns out it just happens to be, it's honestly, they call it he's just really lucky. He just happens to be, it's like a 6'1" dude who leads the team in rebounds. It's maybe it's just lucky that you got the ball, but maybe you're putting yourself in a good position and no one understands what you're actually doing. It was just one of those things where the ball, they're all right next to the goal and it gets kicked around and he ends up with it and the goalie's not there and he kicks it in. And it's he leads the team. He leads the national team in goals. So it's at some point, how far does your luck take you? And so some of these guys that have it's look, the numbers wouldn't really say anything. And he's a 6th-year player and he's only started 1 year. It's maybe there is something more to it. I mean, I think even, wasn't it? Maybe it wasn't. Was Honey Badger? Was he?
Tyrann Mathieu?
Wasn't he kind of a
Tyrann
late
Mathieu?
bloomer? I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was some other guy. That was some other dude. I mean, I know Joe Burrow also was look at that. As soon as you start, then you do really well. It's the same with other Carolina quarterback, not
Trubisky?
Howell, not May, Trubisky, where it's just had 1 year.
Ugh.
I mean, that didn't
yeah.
really. We kind of got that one
Disgusting.
wrong. But
let's get on to our next guy. I think we're gonna just I know you wanted to get to all three of your guys, so I think we're gonna finish with your last guy here, and then Avery, you and I will pick up with our last two guys next week, just because we're out of time. So Will, let's get over to your guy real quick.
Okay, so I like what you said about athleticism. Darien Porter, second most athletic corner in the combine. I'm talking about Nohl Williams at Cal. This dude is the opposite of that. And I like what you just said. I really like what you just said about this guy's got the numbers. He does not have anything else. He has
the numbers as in the measurements or the stats?
No, the stats. So he plays corner. He had 52 tackles last year, 7 interceptions, got a touchdown. He had a pick 6 against Cam Ward when they played when Miami played Cal last year. And that's the problem, is that some NFL teams can get suckered in the fact that he's 6'1" almost. He's 200 pounds. He bench pressed 19 times. He had a 4.5 second 40. He has good numbers overall. 14 career interceptions. 7 of them were last year. 25 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. 2 of them were brought back for touchdown. Had 1 career pick return for touchdown. He has the numbers to convince a team to draft him. The problem is that
no one's picking up what he's putting down.
I watched all 7 of his interceptions from last year. Not one of them were contested interceptions. Not one.
Oh.
Every single one was an overthrow or a tip ball. Not one time was there a 50-50 ball where he came down with an interception. A 50-50 ball, he is at best deflecting the pass. And at 6'1", almost 6'1", excuse me, I don't need more credit than he's worth. At almost 6'1", he should be doing that. He's going to match up pretty well with these taller receivers. He's got the arm length. He's got the vertical. Kind of. He can do the hard things, but he's slow. He is not slow in reaction time. He does not react well to route running. He's late to the punch oftentimes. He relies too heavily on closing speed, and that's not going to translate to the NFL well. He lacks run support. Never once did I see him tackle with his arms. Every single time, it's shoulder or the top of his helmet into a thigh. Like, that's going to last a long time. Yeah, he never did he wrap up. It was, I'm going to just try to knock this guy down because I'm I'm 6'1", I'm 200 pounds. I'm just physically larger than people, so I'm just going to run into them with my shoulders or head and hope they fall down. One of his strengths that people keep talking about is his press ability. I did not see it. Him doing press is he sticks one arm out and the guy gets off the line of scrimmage and runs the route. I don't know what kind of press we're talking about here. Press is not his strong suit. If that's his strong suit, I would never draft this guy. One repeated strength I saw is ability to retrace the route from the trailing position. Now, if that's not a spin on a negative, I don't know what is. He gets beat by, I'm pretty sure that Restrepo could beat this guy in a route. And no matter how slow Restrepo is, now, granted, Restrepo is a very good route runner, but when it translates to the NFL, these guys are the best of the best. They are running routes extremely precise. He's going to get burned on so many double moves, it's not even going to be funny, and he will not be able to catch up. He gives too much separation to these route runners because he cannot read a route. He does not understand what's happening, and so he gives too much separation, and in the NFL, that's going to get him burned every single time. He had a high number of holding and pass interference penalties last year. He did have 14 career interceptions. He did have 7 of them last season, 1 of them back for a touchdown. He did have multiple long kick returns. So when the ball is in his hands, he does have good vision and he can make a play. But getting to that spot, and that's the problem, is that the numbers, if you're just sitting in your draft room looking at numbers and you're not watching the tape, and you've got your one intern who's done the research on him over there saying, hey, we shouldn't do this. This guy is not great. He's a bit too aggressive and he gets him burned all the time. No one's going to listen to that.
Jonah Hill from Moneyball. That's him.
Exactly. No one's going to listen to that guy. Billy Bean is not out there in all of these draft rooms. It just doesn't happen.
This guy sounds like the ultimate Dallas Cowboy.
Why do you hate
the coverage? He gives him all the space in the world. He gives him every chance he can get.
But again, all of that, like I started with, all of that's coachable. Every single bit of that is coachable. He has the size, he has the length, he has the ability to be athletic.
The je ne sais quoi.
I wouldn't even go that far. He has the ability to be athletic, but actually being it is a different story. Unfortunately, he's probably a third-round talent. He should go in the 5th round, truly.
I agree with that. I agree.
Go in the 5th round, but somebody's going to get suckered by 7 picks last year, and they're going to draft him in the 3rd round, and they're going to be stuck with him. He's a 5th-round talent, at best. He's day 3, and it's not even on that high of day 3, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with you. I agree. He shouldn't be drafted higher than the 5th round.
He shouldn't, but again, someone's going to get suckered into it. Oh, 7 interceptions. Wow, that's really good.
And it's going to be Jerry.
I didn't know what to say.
Jerry.
Sorry I was such a bad attitude with all these players, but...
Hey, that's okay. Not everybody loves every prospect in the draft. That's the great thing about the draft. All right, so that's all we have time for today. Again, Avery and I are going to pick up with our last guys next week. So stay tuned for that. We've got some more good NFL draft talk coming next week for you. Getting ready for the NFL draft coming up at the end of this month. So stay tuned. We will see you next week. And as always, don't forget to keep your balls played with. We'll see you next time.